record. I'm supposed to record these so I can share. If people have interesting questions, I can share the recordings. And I see that we also have another Heather and Cassiopeia on the line, so I just want to acknowledge you guys. But Janet, let's take your question. How are you? Good to
I'm
see you.
well,
What a treat! What a
likewise.
treat to see
I was
you.
so great. I was like, oh, perfect. This is a way to see Heather.
Awesome. I love it. I know. It's like the way, right? Zoom.
Oh, yes, it is the way. And in your glowing self, right there you are.
Oh, you're
So I
so
have several
cute.
questions.
Okay.
One is, if there is a question, would you like to know about it prior?
Oh, you can always, yeah, if people have questions that they want me to tackle, you can just hit reply to any of my emails and I try to tackle them on these calls. So, yeah,
Okay.
totally a great option or just show up, either one.
Okay, so that was one of them. And then the other
Yep.
is, as you know, so I've been a photographer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even within that was coaching, but
Mm-hmm.
now I want to be a coach and emphasize money love. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, in the incorporation of, well, less about the incorporation, I'll leave that for another time. As I'm developing the business and creating a whole new website from scratch, I'm imagining you're going to come in very handy. Is there a place on your website that already exists? Like, here are great questions to ask. I went to your frequently asked questions, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
wondering if there's anything specific to new, even though I'm not a new business person, new businesses.
New businesses. So one of the things that I regularly, and this is going to be more of a overarching framework. I have something that I call my 5 bucket framework for business protection. And I can give you the link to that. I've got several ways that I deliver it in a masterclass, in my legal basics boot camp. I'll pop the link into the chat, but people can go to legalwebsitewarrior.com/, legal basics boot camp. So all one. And that will pop you into a little course that I've created that walks you through some quick trainings.
Mhm.
One of the buckets that's going to be particularly relevant for coaches is bucket number 2, because you've been through incorporation before. You probably know how to set up a business entity, but and if you don't, no problem, because we can sort you out there. But bucket number 2 is business contracts, and this is what protects a huge portion of a coaching business, both their online presence, their client services, right? So bucket number 2, there's a lot to look at. And you'll see what I mean by buckets when you go through that training. We literally look into 5 buckets and we talk about how they apply to your business. There's a tool in there, like what contracts do I need in my business, that's linked in that training. And that can help people get started, because that helps them understand, based on what they're doing right now, what contracts should they get in place, right? So if they're collecting data online, right, you want a privacy policy. If you're sharing information and sharing data online, you want website terms and conditions. If you're to the point of selling stuff online, like you've got an online sales funnel or you're making sales, you want terms of purchase specific to what it is that you're selling. And and that's for the online stuff. There's additional things, like if you've got an affiliate program, or you're putting JV agreements in place, joint ventures, right? You're partnering with people on projects or different things. So there's a variety of things that can come into play, but I've got a quick questionnaire that will walk people through, like, what are you doing in your business? And then it'll give you exactly what you need from a contracts perspective to cover that.
Mhm.
Um,
Awesome.
yeah, so that may be helpful. And then, it'll walk you through the other buckets as well. But that might be a place to start. And then, obviously, if you have any questions, just email me or let's get on the phone.
So let me ask one last one and
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you move on.
No,
So,
totally.
in terms of incorporating,
Mm-hmm.
is there any special reason to do that with an online business? I mean, more
Mm-hmm.
so than even, you know,
Yeah, no, great question. Yes. So, a couple of reasons why. One is that incorporating, and for others who are listening or for people who might catch the replay, An incorporated business means that you've actually set up a formal business entity, right? And that usually looks like an LLC, a C Corp, sometimes creating either an LLC or a C Corp, but making the S Corp election. So you set up what's called an S Corp, right? But that truly is the only way that you can separate. And there's some other entities, depending on where people live, that might be available, but those are generally the ones that people in this space are looking at. It's the only way to tell the court system, to tell the IRS, to tell your clients, my business lives over here and my personal assets live over here. So if you're interested in separating out any liability that you bring in the door through your business from your personal assets and protecting your personal assets, then a business entity is the first stop. It's the thing that you need to do right out of the gate, because if you do coach somebody around, let's say, financial stuff, or for other people listening, there's a lot of people in the health world, or, right now we have a lot of health and wellness coaches focusing on, people's mental health, and supporting them through coaching. But you get into some waters where there may be liability. There may be something that a client does to rely on your advice that either causes them harm or puts them at risk unintentionally, or they make a decision that's a wrong decision based on their interpretation of your advice, right? There's various ways that liability can come in the door for our clients, and we don't want that to translate to us, our business, our personal assets. And so, for people that remain a sole proprietor, which is an unincorporated business, right? And a lot of people say, well, I registered a DBA. Even though that identifies you with the state, you're doing business as, that's a DBA, or sometimes it's called a fictitious trade name. It doesn't set up an actual formal entity. It doesn't say, business lives here, personal life and personal assets live here. If you're a sole proprietor, even with a DBA, your business and your personal assets live in the same space, and so you don't have a way of reducing or minimizing your personal liability for things that you do through your work. And that's really goal number one. And in the coaching world, especially if you're dealing with finances or money, especially if you're dealing with health, you really have to be very cautious about those things. And truthfully, the other thing that I tell people is if you're really committed to doing this as a line of work and doing it as a business, even the step of incorporating, it really changes your mentality and your relationship to the work. Like, it's the difference a little bit between dipping your toe in the water and really carving out space for your business and saying, like, I'm doing this, I'm committed, I'm filing, I'm paying the fees, right? And so I really see people's relationship to their work and their business shift when they really treat it like a business. So that's just, it ends up being a side benefit, but it surprises some people.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I highly recommend it. I mean, in Washington State, it takes, I think, $200, maybe $250 to file for a, formal business entity. A lot of people can do that on their own, especially if they've got a little legal coaching. You don't have to. Obviously, you can hire an attorney to do that, but it's less cost prohibitive than people think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for the protection, for the trade-off, it's really worth it.
Beautiful. Thank you. Your generosity in the world helps me be generous in the world. And that's the kind of financial focus I have, right? Yeah. So thank you for sharing.
I love that. Of course.
Well, I'll check out. I see that there are others,
no worries. So. Anybody else with questions? You're welcome to just go live or pop your question in the chat if you're in a place where you can't, if you can't go live. So I see Heather, I see Cassiopeia, Annalise. Welcome, you guys. Let me know if you've got a question I can help you with. Janet, I'm so happy to see your face, even the picture of your face. And some people just pop on to listen, so that's okay too. But I tend to only stay as long as people have questions. And so if people don't have any additional questions, then I will get ready to sign off. So last chance. If Annalise says, don't have a specific question, was just curious. Okay, no problem. Welcome. Yes, Heather, the first step to creating a business would be to create a formal entity. That's right. And the decision of what to create, I like to tell people that there are certainly, business entities that work well for, for the types of folks that I support: coaches, consultants, online educators, speakers, authors, right? A lot of people in that space use an LLC because it's flexible, gives you flexibility around your tax election status. There's a lot of good if somebody's going down a startup path, though, if you're creating something where you're like, maybe I'd like to sell this business, or I want outside funding, or I really want to follow a very traditional startup path, like depending on what you're doing, Heather, you might need some additional feedback on business entity, like which one to actually select. And the other thing that can be really important is, especially if you've had a previous career, if you've got other assets, or if you have a main job and you're creating something as a side hustle, or you're going to transition into work more full-time that you're doing on your own, is if you have a CPA or a tax strategist that you already work with, consult with them on the right business entity based on projected income if tax savings is a goal, right? So if you want to minimize your taxes, or you've got other financial goals and you want to see what type of business entity would be the right fit, I always recommend that people consult with their CPA or tax strategist to make sure that they are choosing an entity that's right for their scenario, because this is not a one size fits all. As an example, if you create, let's say you create an LLC, and it gives you the option, right? We talked about an LLC having a some flexibility built in when it comes to choosing your tax election status. You can make an election at some point to become an S Corp, right? And either an LLC or an S Corp basically has, flow through income. So you're taxed at the individual level. But the S Corp, you get tax advantages because you get to essentially pay a certain percentage in wages or in salary, and then the remainder, right? So you have to pay a reasonable salary to yourself. The remainder you can pay out in dividends, and they're taxed at a different rate than salary or wages. And so that's one advantage. But maybe you don't need any income from this business initially. Maybe your thought is that you could make $50,000 the first year, and you want to hold all of that in your business and not have it flow through and be taxed on the individual level. A better choice for you might be a C corporation, right? So this is why working with a tax strategist around your individual financial scenario can really help you choose an entity that's the right fit for you. Do I have a step-by-step process for brand new entrepreneurs? Heather, yeah, so I would redirect you to the boot camp the link that I put above in the chat, and I'll post it below. This would be a great place to get started to just understand business protection from a legal perspective. And there's lots of resources that I reference within it. It's kind of a mini training, like literally just a short series of videos. They're meant to be consumed in 5 minutes or 8 minutes a piece. You can do it in a week. Like, I think it's set up as a 5-day thing. You'll get little email reminders like, go watch this section today. But let's see, there's a lot more, and I have a lot of resources on my website as well, Heather. So you're welcome to check out my website. I've got lots of articles under my blog, which I think is just called like news or tips. Let me go look what I called my blog. My website's in the middle of a big upgrade right now, so it's all going to look very different anyway soon. So I think it's just called news. But if you go under news, you'll see recently there's a lot of podcast posts because I launched a podcast this year. So that takes up a lot of my blog. But if you scroll through, there are a lot of resources and articles on there that will be educational for people just getting ready to start. Best advice for protection and partnerships and joint ventures. Yeah, so Cassiopeia, that is a great question. And I've got a couple of resources. One, I'm going to grab a link. I have both an affiliate agreement, so it depends what kind of joint ventures you're talking about. Some people, it's interesting because there's the legal definition of joint ventures and affiliate relationships, right? And then there's the practical words that people use in the online space, and a lot of people call affiliates joint ventures. And JV partners, and they're really more appropriately called affiliates depending on what the arrangement is. But I have templates for both joint venture partnerships. And when I say joint venture partnerships, I mean project-based joint ventures. So these are more typically what I support in this space versus like long-term setting up a new corporation type of joint venture. And certainly for people that are just starting out and or who are really wanting to explore, can they get a project off the ground, right? Could a new project or course or program become essentially its own business with enough time? One way that you can start and test that kind of playground of like, do we work together? Is this going to work? Is through a project-based joint venture versus going to the extent of like literally setting up a new corporation and paying all the legal fees and everything that is normally required with setting up an actual corporation joint venture, right? So I'm going to pop a link into my individual templates page. Keep in mind that I have bundles as well, and a lot of people who are, especially if they're doing a lot in this space, they're going to be well served by my bundles because I try to put as much value as possible and some cost savings into those bundles. But truthfully, the individual templates, they, compared to what you would actually pay an attorney to create this for you, they're very, very, very well priced. And you'll find both a JV agreement, and I want to point out really quick that my JV agreement template comes with a joint venture preparation guide. The value of that whole package is really in the guide. I mean, let's be clear that the joint venture template, and by the way, I recently ran a couple of groups through trainings on both my affiliate agreement template and my joint venture agreement template. And I had a guy who's a CPA who's done business for like 30 or 40 years, and he's done probably hundreds of joint ventures. Tell me, Heather, I've never seen an agreement as well done and as comprehensive as this. So that made me happy to hear that feedback. But it's literally, it's like an 18-page agreement. Don't let that overwhelm you. A lot of it, if you go through the preparation guide walks you through questions that are directly related to what you need to fill out in the JV agreement template itself, and does a lot of the prep work for you, meaning that, and when I say the value is all in the preparation guide, what people generally get wrong about joint ventures is that they jump in without having really thorough conversations about a lot of the practical realities of being in business. And oftentimes partnerships go sideways when people think like, oh, this is going to be 50-50 contribution. They're making a bunch of assumptions that are not actually correct. And then they find themselves very frustrated when that's not the reality that they're living after they've been, going, like pursuing the joint venture for a while. So the joint venture preparation guide is really, really valuable. It's like, I want to say like 6 or 8 pages, but it walks you through, I think, 30 or a little bit over 30 questions that are going to help partners explore, are you the right fit? Should you be working together? And if you do work together, what happens under certain circumstances? Because one of the other mistakes that people make in business, and it's a little bit like marriage, none of us get married thinking we're going to get divorced, right? But the reality is that in business, we absolutely are going to get divorced. Like that business relationship is going to come to an end some way, somehow, and probably sooner than later, meaning that most business partnerships, they terminate at some point, and oftentimes it's sooner than people think. So what that means from a practical perspective is if we go in with eyes wide open and just plan that at some point this business partnership is going to come to an end, even if it's just a project-based one, why not address that? Like how we're going to close out the partnership, how we're going to deal with assets that we create in the context of this joint venture project, and talk about that really, openly at the beginning, so that whenever it does come to an end, we've already carved out a path for how we're going to handle everything. And it's so much smoother, and you're less likely to be caught in disputes and questions and frustrations about people having different ideas about things, right? If you've done the work of fleshing it out in advance, much, much better off, and it really sets you up for a stronger partnership. And so hopefully, I know that was a long answer to your question, Cassiopeia, but hopefully that helps. Check out that page in my individual templates. And again, that was specific to joint ventures. There's also an affiliate one. So if you're interested in launching your own affiliate program, and just so we're clear, the way that I view a joint venture project is where two people are coming together to create something, right? A course, a program, a product, something that doesn't exist in the world. They're going to co-create it. They're going to share either talent, contribution, efforts, and really create something new. Affiliates are where somebody really owns a course or program or offering, and you're enlisting others to basically help with the marketing. Email to their list, share on social media. That would be much more of an affiliate arrangement. So you are going to want the affiliate program for that. And it's a very, very well done affiliate agreement. For affiliates and JV offers, does it make any difference that I'm a nonprofit? So Troika, great question. I don't do a lot of nonprofit law. My understanding is it's very, very similar to regular business. And so I would anticipate that yes, anytime you're doing a joint venture project, that you are doing an affiliate program, even as a nonprofit, you would want this stuff covered because legally you could still have some liability. And these agreements are all about taking care of your business in a way that helps sustain it, reduces risk, right? Provides clarity for the parties that are entering into an arrangement. So I just did a review of some documents for a couple of international nonprofits that are partnering together on a promotional program. Right, you absolutely still need language and contracts in place. Yeah, totally. Totally. So, the other thing you can do depending on where you're based, and I tell people this all the time, is, if you don't have the budget out of the gate to have an attorney draft the stuff for you, you can always start, California, you can always start with a template to make sure that you at least have, some amount of coverage. And I've worked really hard to create documents that are a really good fit for the space that I serve. Mm-hmm. And then at some point you could have those reviewed by an attorney or get them updated. So you might go to that same link, the individual templates, and check out both the JV agreement and the affiliate one. Okay, let me make sure that I get to a couple of other questions that I see here. I suppose one I wonder about is whether GDPR compliance, yes, on privacy covers the California rules, or does that need other details? So Annalise, great question. The CCPA, which is the California Consumer Protection Act, I believe, and maybe I'm getting that wrong, California Consumer Privacy Act, there's a couple, right? California had a pre-existing privacy law, and then there's been a recent one that was proposed and put into legislation basically as a response to the GDPR. And that one has has some requirements that don't fit most of my clients. So for example, you have to be, I think you have to have a list of at least 50,000 residents of California to basically, and there's a couple, either be making like $25 million a year, primarily selling your list, like selling information that you've collected, personal information of other people, right, in your database, or you've got at least 50,000 California residents on your list. Most of my clients are not at that level. So the CCPA does not apply to most of my clients, at least yet. Some might eventually get to that level, but most of my folks don't have lists that size. And even if they have lists of 50,000 or 100,000, that's going to be an international, like worldwide list, not a California specific list, right? If you have a really massive list, you certainly want to be paying attention to that. But for most of my clients, that's not a concern yet, because either they're not making $25 million a year, or they're not collecting data from at least 50,000 California residents. Now, GDPR, you would be required to be compliant with. If you have a website that's accessible to people around the world and you are not excluding people from visiting that site based on geographic restrictions, right? So that means that anybody from the EU, a resident of the EU, could opt into your database. The reality is that most likely you're not going to be targeted for an audit or a review as a small business that's not specifically marketing to people in the EU. But the other reality is if those folks can get into your database, you are still subject to the law. So if for some reason, and it's a little bit, I tell people it's a little bit like the FTC here in the United States, right? The Federal Trade Commission. They are, and I see Samsung, you come up as Samsung SM. I'm sure that's not your name, but I see your question. Just want to acknowledge you. We'll be circling through the questions here, so hang tight. But back to the GDPR is that what I was starting to say is if you have somebody who's really knowledgeable about their rights under the GDPR and they opt into your database, and I've seen this happen. I've had clients reach out who have said, look, I got this kind of nasty message from somebody saying they wanted all of their contact information and everything that I've collected on them removed, from my database under the GDPR. And, my first question is like, okay, when did you receive this request? And the first time that this came through, and this is a fairly well-known client, very large database, and they said, oh, we got it about 30 days ago. And I was like, oh, well, congrats. Your deadline to respond and to have handled all of this is like today, right? You have 30 days to reply and to also be compliant with that reply under the GDPR. And so the reality is these are not laws that we can ignore even as small businesses, because all it takes is a single informed consumer ending up inside of our database and being very aware of what their rights are to reach out and either flag you, because you also have different, throughout the EU, you've got different data authority, I forget what they call them, and I apologize, I have a foggy brain today, I'm a little bit tired after a week of being sick. Basically regulatory authorities that help enforce the GDPR, right? They're the watchdogs. And just like here in the States, all it takes for you to end up on the FTC's watch list is somebody emailing your information to the FTC saying, go look at this person's marketing language. Go look. And I get notifications from the FTC that helps me monitor what's happening in the online world of business, right? And especially during COVID, oh man, people say and do crazy things. And, women who are doing like quote unquote, home remedies in their kitchen in the middle of Iowa or whatever are getting cease and desist letters from the FTC. And there's no size where you're too small to be looked at if you are online, you're marketing, and you're collecting people into your database. And so what I tell people is the GDPR, and Troika, I see your comment here, or your question, I'll answer that here in a second. The GDPR applies to anybody around the world that is collecting individual personal identifiable information, right, into their online database. And that is a lot of us small businesses. Like, I don't specifically target people in the EU or even international, but I get quite a few international people into my database. I work with clients around the world because they can't get the legal support that they are looking for other places. And so they'll ask me questions. Yeah, emails count. And you're right. So Annalise, emails count. And also, you guys, even if you don't have an active email opt-in form, even if you just have Google Analytics turned on, that counts. So you don't even have to be collecting a name or an email, but the amount of data that Google Analytics collects, or a similar analytics program, which most websites have these days, that's enough to qualify as personal identifiable information under the GDPR. And so really, if you've got a website doing any collection at all, period, you need to be GDPR compliant. And let's see. So hopefully that helps. Facebook Pixel also, that's right, Annalise. So all of the ways that we collect information, and maybe you're not using cookies, but maybe you have a simple opt-in form, that's enough. Let me just see if there's any other questions. Okay, full-time corporate recruiter and want to start your career coaching business. Are you legally required to let your employer know? So my question for you, and I apologize, you come up as Samsung SM. My comment for you, Samsung, is that if you signed an employment agreement, that's the place to start. Go look at your employment agreement and see if it has any language. For people that did sign an employment agreement or that do sign one, generally there's prohibitive language around obviously sharing any trade secrets, sometimes there's, an actual restriction on the type of work that you can do when you leave that company. So you might be subject to a non-compete. I'm personally not a fan of non-competes at all. Washington State isn't either. So we just actually had a recent revision to the law here where non-compete provisions have to be subject to certain restrictions, right? Cannot be a wide open thing. So you want to go look and see, is there a non-compete? Like, are you doing anything in your side hustle or your side business that looks like what you're doing in your main work? Or are there other restrictions in that contract that you need to know about because they could be relevant? So that's a place to start. Most employment contracts that I see do not prevent somebody from having a second position, like a second job or whatever, because plenty of people work 2 jobs, right? But there can be restrictions, like I said, if the second kind of work, the second job looks at all like the job that you're doing, and if there's a non-compete. So check that out. That would be the place to start. If you need somebody to review an employment agreement, I've reviewed plenty of those. I'd be happy to help. I have a newsletter that is a double opt-in. I asked for name and email only. It is stored on the AWeber website. Yep, I'm familiar with AWeber. There's an unsubscribe link on every email that is sent. Yeah, so Troika, you would need a privacy policy in place, right? Presumably, you would also need, Shweta, thank you. Yes. So Shweta, start with your employment agreement and just look if you've got one. And if you don't have one, there's no restrictions, right? You didn't sign anything. And plenty of people have side hustles. So it's, congrats. Super exciting that you're getting started with that. But back to Troika, your newsletter, that's a double opt-in. That's great. The double opt-in is good, especially if you are marketing to people in Canada, which requires by law that you have a double opt-in. You ask for name and email only. You're still going to be subject to the GDPR. So let me... for anybody listening, one thing that I've done this year so I have, for folks that are getting into the online space, and I've helped a lot of people protect their websites this year, right? If people were not online before, like clearly this is the year to get online and get online in a bigger way. So I have what's called the website protection package, which provides documentation that most people in this space need, right? We get your website terms and conditions set up. You have your privacy policy that's GDPR compliant. You also then have terms of purchase for anything that you're selling. Let's say you're doing an online course or digital downloads or even live coaching, but you have an online sales system for that. Right. So the website protection package, and then there's other disclaimers that go along with that. That is kind of the foundational piece, like for most people that I serve, for what I call their home base, right? Their online business. And I've run it a couple times this year. I turned my website protection package, which is available online through my website, but I turned it into a workshop. I'm still, for a short time longer, making that workshop available. It cuts the price in about half. Like it makes it much more accessible. But let's be clear that even, and let me share the link to the regular page, but I will also pull out the workshop landing page. I don't share this. You can't get to it from my website, but I share it behind the scenes because it's such a great value, and I just drop people into the workshop recording. So I think the last time I ran it was a couple months ago, but you get access to the recording, all the tools, the documents, and the part that I care about, you guys, that like the documents, let's be clear, are very important. Having solid legal documentation that supports your business is really important. But beyond that, what is missing in both the legal marketplace and the business marketplace is training, like legal education to help people understand best practices associated with not only use of the documentation, but running an online business. Excuse me, I had a tickly throat. Oh. And so the workshop portion, I really like delivering it in a workshop format because I get to walk people through all of the education that goes along with best practices, and not only for the documents, but also other things that you need to know being online, like how do you minimize chargeback fraud, right? It's a huge deal for small business owners. Friendly fraud is what it's called. Friendly fraud accounts for 86% of the fraud online. It's a massive percentage. And for people that are making online sales, digital programs, digital courses, and especially for folks that offer those things internationally, the risk of chargeback fraud goes way up. So I do like 8 or 9 different trainings on things that you have to be aware of as an online business owner, inside of my regular, and let me just grab it. I can't talk and do other stuff at the same time. But here is a link to my bundles. I have basically 4 bundles, right? And one of them is the website protection package. So you can get more information here on this. But I'm also going to share, just for people on this call, and I don't share this out in the world widely, I'm going to share a link because it still exists. It'll just drop you into the recording of my workshop. Let me see if I can remember the link. I think it's this. So that if you are really serious about wanting to get this done, I would say do this in the next couple of weeks, because I am going to be taking this down. I've done this a couple times this year as a way to make website protection really, really accessible. Whoops, I think I put that in a private chat. Let me redo this. So here is the link to everybody for my regular bundles. Like I have 4 different bundles that will essentially cover all areas of the businesses that I serve in this space. But the workshop, if people are specifically interested in the website protection package workshop, and here's a little hint for anybody interested in the JV Ready upgrade or affiliate agreement, like this price is insane. You guys, I did this for a group that I speak at regularly, and so this really was tailored just to that group. But I'm going to offer it here because you guys have been awesome. You showed up to this call, you're asking great questions, and look, you're on here 45 minutes later. So I know that you really care about your business. This workshop link is going to give you access to both the website protection package at a great price, right? So it's $697, and that's less than half of the normal price through my website, which is the normal one that I sell every day. The JV Ready upgrade, this, you get the documents that I talk about, both the affiliate agreement and the JV agreement, you guys, for like a third of the normal price of both documents put together, maybe less than a third. And I think it is less than a third. And I'll give you access to the training. I did a whole separate workshop just around those 2 documents, the JV agreement and the affiliate agreement. So you basically get 2 workshops and both sets of documents, which there's a lot of documentation in these 2 bundles on that page. So don't share this around. I don't share this around except for specific people where I know it might be a fit. And this offer, like I said, my plan was to take it down end of September. I did a big push to really help people get online. But you guys, if you want to grab that, just grab that link while you're on the call. It's legalwebsitewarrior.com, WPP-workshop. Just keep in mind the workshop is already done and completed. It's a recording, so you'll get access to both the documents and then the recording of those workshops. So I just don't want you thinking it's a live, like, upcoming workshop. Hopefully that helps, though, and it's a really tremendous value for anybody who's trying to get online this year. I really made it my goal to have it be very, very accessible. Troika, my plan was to take that sales page down because it literally, I think the workshop was end of June, the last time I offered it, the end of September. But, be in touch. Drop me an email if you're interested in it and that doesn't work for you. The problem is I just can't have like a whole bunch of outdated landing pages out there because they do become searchable. Excuse me. And let me just make sure, I'm going to scroll back up to make sure I didn't miss any other questions. But you're welcome to go live or pop in the chat if you've got any additional questions. Troika, hopefully that answered. So regarding the GDPR, isn't it just a statement on your website? Great question. So the GDPR is, yes, you have to have certain language on your website. It shows up in my documents inside of the privacy policy, because that's that's the that's what it pertains to, right? Is your privacy policy. And let's be clear, whether you are communicating with people inside of the EU or not, your privacy policy really fulfills your obligation as a business owner to let people know what data you're collecting, how you collect it, why you collect it, how you keep their data safe, and then how people can opt out, get out of your database, etc. Right? So regardless of whether the GDPR applies or not, we all need to have privacy policies in place that address those things, because there are other privacy rules that do apply. That said, the GDPR is another section. It's like another portion of language that applies to people in the EU. Now, the way that I draft the privacy policy for my clients is that you treat people the same in your database. If somebody in the US wants out and they want to have access of the same protection and rights as folks in the EU, like, you do that. For me, I treat all my folks the same. If they want out, we get them out, right? If they are making certain requests, we comply with those requests. It doesn't matter where they live. And I highly recommend that other people adopt the same approach of really being respectful of everybody's information, right? And treating everybody the same in regards to how you take care of their rights to privacy. So in the documentation that I provide, the section on the GDPR is in the privacy policy itself. No, so Heather, you don't have to finish the workshop before I take the landing page down. You would just have to sign up and purchase before I take the page down. The content lives other places, right? So it's just the landing page that allows people to purchase through that link. Yeah, of course. And then Troika, I've been in online sales for 17 years. Oh, congrats. You've only had 2 chargebacks and won them both. Well, good work. Yeah, and for folks that do face chargebacks, the thing that having a solid terms of purchase in place, and terms of purchase, right, you've got website terms and conditions that apply to all of the content that's basically generally accessible to the public. Like somebody visits your main website, you know, like I do. I have a blog, I have videos, I share my podcast. There's a ton of content that we create. That's all covered by my website terms and conditions. But for actual purchases, right? So if you're making online sales into, you know, you offer a digital course, or you have downloads, or you have other things that you sell online, or even live services, right? Through all of those things, you're exposing intellectual property. You're sharing your intellectual property with the world. You need to have certain language in place around that lets people know what they can and can't do with your IP. You also need to have limitations of liability, right? Because we all know how we intend for somebody to use our information. We ultimately don't get to control how they do use it. And that's where liability comes in the door. So you need to have limitations of liability. You need to have certain disclaimers in place. You know, this is where you also have your refund policy, language specific to that sale. So there's a lot more in there for people that are running like Facebook groups or membership sites, right? There's other liability that comes in the door when you bring third parties together. And so you need to have a whole slew of provisions that talks about your right to remove people from those groups, or, you know, having a prohibition against data scraping. It's a huge problem nowadays where somebody gets into a group and scrapes everybody's data, whether it's their contact information, other personal data, and then goes outside of the group and invites them into their group, or here, come do coaching with me, or whatever. And it takes a lot of effort and energy to get people into a group, get people qualified and subscribed, right? And so that's, you know, there's a lot of other provisions. Once you get inside these documents, you see really how many legal issues we deal with inside of our online businesses, and why core protections need to be in place. So terms of purchase really help protect not only the way that you operate your business, they protect against chargeback requests, they protect your merchant account, right? A lot of people don't realize you get a certain number of chargeback requests. I was contacted by a client that I have in Canada just the other day, and they do international sales and international shipping, and that really escalates your risk factor as well. And they're at risk of losing their merchant account, right, because of it. And so terms of purchase, and they didn't have terms in place. Terms of purchase protect you against chargeback, against fraud, and there's some other ways that you can protect against fraud as well, and they protect your merchant account, which you don't want to lose. Yes, so Troika, inside of the website protection package, you get the template documents themselves. And let's be clear that these are documents built for my highest end clients, people that are running multi-million-dollar businesses. They give you lots of room to grow. They cover a very wide range of the activities that we do online. They're specifically tailored to people in this space, right? Coaches, consultants, online educators, and experts, speakers and authors. These businesses all look very, very similar. And so, I've had clients pay $5,000 for these documents, and you get them inside of a workshop at a steal of a deal. Yes. And so you get that training and you get the templates directly inside of that workshop. Yes. And Troika, if you also sell physical products, what do you sell? Do you mind typing in the chat really quickly what you sell? Is it books? Is it stuff where there's liability that goes along with the use of those products? You might need some customization or some additional legal support specific to your product offerings. Okay, and I'm just checking to make sure that I've seen the other questions. I think I've covered everything so far, you guys. So if you have new questions, type them in the chat. Otherwise, go live if you want to show up live. But great questions today. Obviously, you're always welcome to email me if you have any follow-up questions. Excuse me. But, congrats on hanging in there. We're almost at the top of the hour again. John, I see that you're in there. I don't know. Have I seen any questions from you? Feel free to pop into the chat if you've got a question. Great to see you, Troika and Heather and Annalise and Cassiopeia. Hopefully this was helpful. Janet, how much do we need to know when incorporating? Name changes, focus changes, how flexible? Okay, great question. Let's talk briefly about incorporation. And particularly as it comes to naming, right? So then when you say name changes, Janet, are you meaning name changes to the business or personal name changes? Yeah, name changes to the business. So there's a couple of schools of thought around naming a business, right? One, and I really like for people, I'm glad you're asking this question because I like for people to think about this before they start a business versus having to clean things up afterwards. If you are creating a business that is based on a personal brand, right, then you want to think about that, right? Because sometimes it is advantageous to have that be, in some relationship to you. If you are wanting to create a business that is, that basically, maybe you want to franchise at some point, or maybe you want it to be a model that you can grow and hire additional people, and it's really not about you, it's about the work, or something that you could even spin off and sell at some point, right? Even if you don't franchise it, is it a business that you want to sell versus a personal brand where it's more of like a lifestyle brand? Somebody wants to do the work that they love for a very long time, right? But they're not necessarily interested in creating a business that they will sell at some point. So those two things can change the way that you name a business, right? Because a business that you sell 10 years or 15 years down the road probably, should have a name that is sellable versus it based around personal branding. So that's one thing I like for people to think about. The other thing is, and Troika, I see your other stuff, so we can chat in a minute. The other thing is, the name of your company doesn't have to be the same name as your brand, right? So I have plenty of clients that might have like their LLC called, 421 Media LLC, like pretty nondescript. And the brand that they develop in the online space is totally different, right? Because you can trademark a brand name. So whether you develop like a brand name for your entire business, whether it's just a signature course or program or product name, all of these things can be associated with your company without having the same name, if that makes sense. So that can give people a lot of flexibility if they're like, oh, well, maybe I'll explore and play a little bit more about the final name that I might go with for my online presence, my online space, but I really need to get a corporation set up or an LLC set up. You could choose a fairly nondescript name and form your company, and then look to really creating a recognizable brand name, at some point in the future. So I hope that helps. But you want to, anytime you're choosing a name, even just for a business that you might register, you want to definitely spend some time searching on Google, making sure that nobody else is using that name in the online space, if that's where you plan to be. And obviously you can do some state level searches. You can also go to the uspto.gov, and that's the United States Patent and Trademark Office, and search using the trademark database, search basic trademarks. You can search for word marks and make sure that, like, if you've got a phrase that's 4 words, search the full 4 words, but also search combinations of 2 and 3 words that is contained within that phrase, so that you get to know the landscape of what might already be registered using similar nomenclature, right? You want to make sure that you're not infringing on somebody else's established rights that's already in the marketplace. So I hope that helps. Do a lot of searches. Once you come up with a name that you like, make sure that it is not already being used. Yes, thank you, Janet. You're welcome. Okay, Troika. Your elixirs, vibrational sprays, which is aromatherapy, silk scarves, and other stuff, about 20 items. Yeah, so you would really want to also include a products like shipping and returns policy, right? So in addition to what I have in my documentation, you'd have a section that's really about shipping, exchanges, and returns. I help people, create custom policies for those kinds of things, and so I'd be happy to help you with that. But that is usually more of a custom item, because it depends on what, shipping provider you're using, depends on where you ship. It really depends on what your policies are. But you definitely want to make sure that those things are covered, and then probably have some disclaimers obviously in place, especially around the elixirs and aromatherapy, because obviously those can be used the wrong way, and you want to make sure that people are not doing that and they have advance notice. So you'd probably want to have some custom language in place for that stuff. Troika, I see you say you have a profit, an S corporation, a profit S corp. Okay. Saint Germain Insurance, Saint Germain Inns, my last name, and a non-profit corp, Seventh Ray Foundation Inc. Got it. It's typo correction for Saint Germain Inc. Got it. Understood. I know the function in Zoom does a lot of autocorrect, which isn't always helpful. Got it. Yep. So if you're already set up, then you're probably good to go. Annalise, should I have product liability insurance for the aromatherapy? Great question. Yes, I mean, for most people that are selling any kind of product, you should at minimum have, general liability insurance. Look to see, with whatever insurance provider you're already working with, or you can go to an insurance broker in the marketplace, see if there is, product liability specific to the products. But yes, you definitely, insurance in my 5-bucket training that I walked through, that I linked up above, and I'll share the link again to the boot camp. Bucket number 3 is insurance, right? So we go through 5 buckets and we talk about what's in those buckets, but bucket number 3 is insurance. There's something like 13 different business insurance policies, right, available to small businesses. And so just like when you buy a house and they ask you, do you have a swimming pool? Do you own a dangerous dog? They're really trying to get to know, what is your risk factor, right? How do we match you with an insurance policy that's going to cover the risk that you have? Same thing in your business, depending on what you offer. Do you have employees? Do they drive? What are the kinds of things that you're doing in your business that might bring risk in the door? So that they can match you with an insurance product that is the right fit. But yeah, I would definitely explore getting insurance in place, for anybody that offers products, even for just a regular coaching business, right? You want to explore, can you get some, whether it's errors and omissions or just general liability insurance in place for what you're doing, because that adds some extra peace of mind and protection around your business. And especially if you do live events, right? You have workshops, you do retreats, you have any kind of live events. Again, that brings unique kind of risk in the door. You want to either get event coverage or a policy that includes that. Heather's question, is there a specific place or link we should search for other online businesses or just Google? Yeah, great question, Heather. So for people that want to do some of this themselves and not hire an attorney to do all this work for them, yes, you can spend quite a bit of time online searching, search in addition to online, like search Facebook, search Instagram, search the other places where this business might show up and might have a presence. Search, like I said, the uspto.gov, go to the basic trademarks search, which is TESS. They have a TESS database search. Start there and use, not only the full name of the phrase or the business name that you want to use, but combinations of some of the words. Yes, love Tess, right? We get to know Tess pretty well, some of us. And search combinations of words, right? So maybe somebody's not using all 4 words or 5 words, but they're using 3 of them, right? It might be enough to keep you out of having a registered trademark or being able to use that business name or that program name in that space, especially if it's a similar or the same category. 8 trademarks. Nice, Troika. You win. Okay. These are great questions. Any other questions before we wrap up? All right. Well, good work today. I think we covered a lot. Excuse me. The tail end of this, whatever I've got. Which links is which? Okay, Troika, are you talking about, Annalise, you're welcome. Are you talking about my bootcamp link or are you looking up above at the other links? Because I shared the bundles, which you'll see at the bundles-partners. The reason I have it both bundles and partners is because I have an affiliate program and I have people share this page as well. And then the workshop page, that's the one that I'm asking you not to share outside of this group. This is just an offer. Troika says all of them, which links are which. So just go up and grab the links. I would say just spend some time looking at them. You'll figure out what is on what page. But I've shared my bundles page, which you'll see gives you access to my normal website protection package. And that's through the 4 bundles page. I did a very special workshop this year a couple of times to get people online quickly and at a very, very accessible price. That's the workshop page that I just reshared. And then the Legal Basics Bootcamp is a free training. It's a little mini bootcamp that I run people through that gives you a framework to really start understanding your own legal roadmap when it comes to your business and where your legal needs are. And it has my 5 bucket system in there, right? So we've talked about several of those buckets on this call today. Okay, well, hopefully that helps. We covered a ton of information, you guys. I was just checking the chat for anything else. Troika, can I pay you for your offers next month? Depends on which one, right? So the website protection package workshop, I'm taking that landing page down at the end of this month, end of September. I'll do a mailing actually to my list just for people that are already kind of in my inner circle. But next month, all of my regular offerings are still going to be up, including all of the individual templates. Like none of that changes. So yeah, they'll still be available. All right. Great questions, you guys. Anybody else? Thanks for spending some time with us today, with me today. Great to see you. Janet, my good friend, good to see you. Thanks for joining and for all of your great questions. Yeah, John, oh, whoops. I think, John, maybe you sent your question to the wrong Heather. No worries. Because there are a couple of Heathers on this call, but you can resend or post. Yeah, Heather Campbell, that's me. Oh, Janet, I love you and your brain and your heart. You're amazing. Um, the JV I see offer, yeah, the JV, you're right. The JV, if you go to the workshop page, right, and I'll just share my screen really quick so that people can see this. If you go to, do I still have it up? Here's the Ask Me Anything. Oh, here's the workshop page. Yeah, so this page, you guys, and I'll just share it really quick so you see exactly what I'm talking about. If you go to this page right here, you can see my 20 tabs open. That's just how I roll. Let me make this a little bigger. So this is, right, you'll see at the top the website protection package for online entrepreneurs and the JV Ready upgrade. So I think this might be what you're talking about. And let's see, my chat went away. Excuse me. Yeah, so Troika, this offer goes away in like the end of this month. This is a phenomenal offer. You get the JV Ready upgrade, you guys, the 247 upgrade on top of this screaming deal on the website protection package. You can see what the normal price is. So for clients that hire me directly, it's $24.97. On my website, actually the price is now $14.97. And then right now through the workshop, if you want to access the recording, it's $6.97, but you get a whole bunch of documentation and the training is invaluable. The JV Ready upgrade. So the JV agreement and preparation guide on its own is normally $4.97. That's what people buy it out of my individual templates page. Excuse me. That's the normal price. And the affiliate agreement, I think, is maybe $3.97. They're both beefy agreements. The affiliate program agreement, I think, is 10 pages. The JV agreement is 18 pages because it separately includes an IP agreement, right? Intellectual property. A lot of people make the mistake of not dealing with the intellectual property portion of a joint venture project when they go to create something. So this really makes sure that you're taking care of all the details, crossing your T's, dotting your I's. But that price may not come around again. I'm just saying it. Like, I made this as accessible as possible for people that wanted to get online and also are really into creating joint ventures and affiliate programs and affiliate relationships to grow their businesses. And I mean, this year people are so primed to be doing this because it's where we all need to be, right? Especially with current circumstances, and we don't know how long this will go for. Troika, I don't have a payment plan on this. I've made it so accessible that I just recommend that people use their credit cards as a payment plan, right? And John, yeah, I'm seeing your question, how to deal with digital assets paid for, yes, on a personal credit card. So this is a great question. When you are paying for things in your business, right, but you've put them on your personal credit cards, and access to whatever your form of business and the username and password. Big question with time of this session. Short answer, yes. Thanks, John. Transfer ownership and access. So if you have an accountant apologize, you guys. This cold has been kind of rough. One second. I'm at that really obnoxious part of the cold where my throat is so irritated. John, it's doable. Yeah. Tea and honey, I know. I've got these doTERRA Breathe drops that I'm sucking on. I've got some green tea with honey in it. Still, apparently not enough. John, there is a way to deal with it. Basically, my short answer is track everything. All right, record your purchases, track everything, because basically what you can do is essentially put a loan in place for your business that your business pays back, right, when you transfer. But you need to have it documented. And a lot of people do this, especially before officially forming their business, right? We've all paid for things personally, getting ready to get into business. But once you have your business formed, one of the early things that you want to do as well is get accounting help, get a tax or CPA, a tax strategist or CPA person in place to support your business finances, and they can help you with the documentation and all of the money stuff, right? Especially if you've kept good records to make sure that you transfer it, you handle it appropriately, and most importantly, you document it appropriately so that if you're ever audited, you've got what you need. But great question. All right. Okay, you guys, I don't want to keep coughing on you, but these have been good questions. Any others before we sign off? And let me stop my share. But yeah, just as a reminder, this web page, right, the WPP-workshop goes away shortly. So if you feel like this is a fit at all, it really is a great time to get this in place. Otherwise, my other link right here, and actually that's the wrong link. My other one is, let's see, bundles. I think it's this one. This is my main page, and you can get there from I'm just going to show you my menu up top, right? The Ultimate Legal Toolkit, bundles, more value. This is where my bundles live. There's 4 of them, right? So for those of you who are looking at creating your first business, Business Builder Basics is going to be a great start, especially if you are thinking about setting up an LLC. What comes inside this bundle is a whole bunch of resources, including an LLC formation guide, which is applicable to most states throughout the US. The process is very similar. And you get an LLC operating agreement, right? And so there's a lot of value in that operating agreement. A lot of people they make the mistake of actually setting up their business, but never implementing an operating agreement, right? If they're creating an LLC. And the operating agreement is not a document that you have to file with the state, but you do have to date it and sign it and complete it and have it in your files for formation to really be complete. So a lot of people miss that step. So the Business Builder Basics has an LLC formation guide, a sample LLC operating agreement, plus a ton of guides, articles, and resources that will prep you for what comes next in your business building journey. One of the huge values in the Business Builder Basics bundle is my Business Builder Basics Quick Start Guide. It's like a 9-page checklist, and I know that sounds overwhelming, but it honestly, this one document alone of like all the resources I've created would save somebody like 40 to 80 hours of their own research trying to figure out what to do in their business from a legal perspective. It's laid out, and especially if you go through my training on the buckets, the 5 buckets framework, right, for business protection, you'll see this guide walks through each of those buckets. It actually identifies them. It's really, really complementary to my other trainings, but in a checklist style, like 9 pages, you get a ton of value. So I mean, that alone is actually worth the price of this little bundle, but this would help somebody just getting started with a business. And then just so that you understand the landscape, my other bundles are the website protection package, which we've talked a fair amount about on this call. This is my normal price, everyday price here on my website. If you opt in here, like if you purchase this package, this gives you access to the version that lives in my online school. And that includes all future updates, future versions of the documents, etc. So this is a great, great value. The working package, this is, excuse me, this is for coaches, consultants, speakers, all the work that you do outside of your online business, right? So your one-on-one client services agreement, your group coaching, you're putting on workshops or events. You've got all kinds of retreat waivers and event waivers inside of this package, media releases, right? You have a speaker agreement, you have an interview release form, and you can click through on any of these just so I'll show you. Like if you hit the learn more on any of these bundles, it'll take you to a page that walks you through exactly what's inside each bundle. So you can go read up on everything that I'm telling you right here, right? And so there's a ton of resources. These are really designed to be very supportive of people's legal needs, like right out of the box. Because this is the space of people that I serve, I really tailored these bundles to areas and levels of business, right? Because you've got the website protection package, which is online business. the working package, which is all of the work that people do in this space. And then the next package is the business evolution package. This is what we do. This is normally where people get my JV agreement and my affiliate agreement, right? Is inside this bundle. These are all of the ways that we grow our businesses through third-party relationships. So, for example, if you click through on here, excuse me, you'll see non-disclosure agreements, independent contractor agreements, right? For all of the independent contractors we hire to help us build our businesses. Here's the joint venture agreement, the joint venture planning guide, the affiliate agreement, the mutual non-disclosure agreement, right? Contributing writer agreement and release form. This is awesome for people that are having other people contribute content to their platform or their website, and they want to make sure they have the right to publish that and use it. If you have, let's say you run a high-level coaching or mastermind group, and you bring in featured experts, presenters, or speakers, you've got an agreement for that. If you use brand ambassadors or social influencers to help grow your business, there's an agreement for that, right? Referral agreement, website disclaimers, affiliate disclosure for website use, dispute resolution guide. So there's a ton of value inside each of the bundles. But I just wanted to quickly walk you through so you could see how they're all different. They don't overlap. So if you get one bundle, you're not inadvertently overlapping with another. All right, you guys, I might be at the end. My voice is giving out. Troika, the website protection package is the same as what you see here in the JV offer. The JV Ready upgrade only includes the two documents, the JV agreement and the affiliate agreement. Doesn't include any of the others that you see inside of this business evolution package. So I hope that helps. All right, you guys, I'm going to sign off. I'm so sorry, but my voice is done. Yeah, more tea is right. I'm going to go get some water and tea. Feel free to email. Okay, thanks, you guys. You're welcome. Take care. Thank you. I will.